I was in my mid-30s. I was married to an alcoholic. I had 2 little kids. My whole system just collapsed, just barely was surviving. And I had to work. I had to fight for custody of my kids. I had to push through. And there were dark moments where I felt suicidal, like I couldn't go on anymore. I just couldn't stand the feeling, the physiological feeling of being so sick. It took me a long time to figure it out, but a lot of things that people suffer from, there are good answers. And functional medicine really is a roadmap to helping think about how to solve the puzzle of chronic disease. Day after day, miracles happen that were things that I learned were not possible in medicine. Reversing autoimmune disease, reversing Alzheimer's, reversing depression, reversing ADD. Just like you name it, I was like, what? How is this possible? And it was working. I know how much people out there are suffering. And if there's an answer, I want them to have it.
Welcome to Edge of My Seat podcast episode number 2. I am Miki Agrawal, founder of TUSHY, the modern bidet that washes your butt clean after you poop. Today's episode is with Dr. Mark Hyman, who is the #1 functional medicine doctor in the country. He has written 15 New York Times bestselling books. His most recent one's called Young Forever, crushed it. And he's actually coming out with a new book called Young Forever Cookbook, which is really exciting. He's also one of my besties. He has actually helped cure my hyperthyroid condition that just came and went in a couple of years with very diligent functional medicine practices. And because of that, I got pregnant like that. And I owe a lot of that to him. So it's with such a great pleasure that I get to share his darkest, shittiest moment of his life and what he did both internally and externally to clean it up. I always get curious about people's hardest times in their life, the darkest moments of their life, and what were the steps they did internally from just emotionally to clean it up, to get themselves out of that situation, and what are also the things they did externally to clean it up. And so I'm so excited because Mark has so many incredible stories of his own life and dark, curious times and all kinds of things cleaned up. So here we are. Let's do this. Bring me back. Let's just close your eyes and just get yourself back to the darkest part of your life and like what was going on, where were you? And we'll start there.
No, it was rough, man. It was really rough. I was in my mid-30s. I was married to an alcoholic. I had 2 little kids. Had just come back from living in China. Kind of recognized that I had to end my marriage and that I had to fight for sole custody of my children. And
where were you?
In Massachusetts, and I recognized I had to do that. And at the same time, because of that stress, because of other things, living in China and getting mercury poisoning, my whole system just collapsed. So I was not only fighting for my children and for my own life, but I literally was almost completely incapacitated by chronic fatigue syndrome.
And you got mercury poisoning thing from China?
From China, yeah.
Wow.
I was living in China, then Beijing. In the winter, they heated their homes with raw coal, 10 million people, and the air was just black all the time. And I had an air filter, but I cleaned it every day stupidly, and I breathed in concentrated, basically mercury poison soot.
And what were you doing there?
I was building medical clinics for foreigners because there was about 60,000 expatriates in Beijing at the time, and there was no Western medical clinics, and they were all terrified of going to Chinese hospitals.
Right.
Reusing needles and stuff like that. So
you were married at the time, and your whole family was living in China. Got it.
Myself and my wife and my 2 little kids, yeah. And when I came back and I got really sick, my gut went crazy. I had severe brain fog, muscle weakness, couldn't function, just barely was surviving. And I had to work. I had to fight for custody of my kids. I had to push through. And there were dark moments where I felt suicidal, like I couldn't go on anymore. I just couldn't stand the feeling, the physiological feeling of being so sick. It was like feeling like you had not slept in 3 days, but all the time. Like, just that feeling, and you just can't get over it.
And that's mercury poisoning.
It was mercury poisoning.
And also, I'm sure it's like, I always think
it affects your brain. It's a neurotoxin, so I couldn't think well. I had depression. I had insomnia. I couldn't focus. I mean, it was just my brain. I went from being, great. I mean, I went to Cornell. I went to medical school. I could memorize 30 patients' charts and dictate everything at the end of the day without any notes. I mean, I had it all in my head.
It makes me think of like homeless people when they don't sleep in a proper place, and that's why they're kind of go crazy.
Well,
And so you probably went a little crazy. I mean, just like went a little crazy.
I always had my
sleeping.
soul in my own center, and I knew this was not in my head, literally, but I didn't know how to fix it. And so I had to start searching for answers, and it took me years to find answers. And finally came upon functional medicine, and it was
So
really,
what were the first things you did initially? First, externally, internally. Like, what did you?
well, I first had to sort of to figure out what was going on. So I tried, different diets. I tried different supplements. Nothing was really working. I tried to fix my gut. That didn't work. And then I ended up telling my story to someone who was a naturopath, and he then did a test on me, and he said, do a hair analysis, and ended up having very high mercury. And then I did another test, which confirmed how high my mercury was, which is sort of off the chart. And I've seen, probably 10, 15,000 mercury tests over my career in patients. And this was one of the worst, in the top 5% of the worst.
And you hadn't even figured that out until, wow.
It took kind of probably 2 or 3 years to actually figure that out. And then I had to go through the process of healing. So it took years and years. And it was a really rough period of my life. And I, didn't know there was going to be an end to it. Because, from the traditional medical perspective, there's no end to chronic fatigue syndrome.
Right.
It's just
because people are like, oh, you're tired, like get over it.
Yeah, it's like, oh, it's in your head, it's psychological, go on Prozac, take Xanax, whatever. But I knew it wasn't in my head. I knew there was a physiological reason. I was a doctor, I knew my body, I was super healthy, super fit. I was like, the year before this happened, I was riding my bike 100 miles a day, 3 days in a row. I mean, it was just really strong and
So
fit.
what did you do? What were some of the steps you took to actually heal yourself from mercury poisoning?
I had to really understand the whole way the body worked, which was sort of a revelation through understanding functional medicine. And then I had to start chelation, do a lot of IVs, take drugs to actually
What's chelation?
Chelation is basically taking a drug that pulls the metals out of your body, and you pee them out and you poop them out. And I had to take binders and IV glutathione, and there's a whole protocol that I refined over the years, but was something that I had to discover and figure out. And it was really in the early days of functional medicine. So wasn't a lot of experts out there, and I was sort of groping around, and it took years, probably 10 years for me to really start to recover. And then I had more layers of stuff, and mold and Lyme disease, and I've had to dig myself out a few times from pretty deep holes.
So how did you stay in your heart during this period? And how did you even, you were a dad, you were a single father during this period of time.
Yeah.
How did you manage your other life while still trying to heal your own body?
It was tough. I have a very strong will. And I think, if I wasn't as stubborn as I am and persistent as I am, I would
could vouch for that.
Given up. I just would have given up. I just kind of walked through what felt like walls to get through my life, but I knew I had to do it. I had 2 kids. I had no choice. When doesn't matter. No matter how shitty you feel or how bad you feel, if you have little kids, you got to take care of them. They depend on you. And so I had to really show up.
What was it like coming out of your marriage during this period while you were sick? Because I'm sure you wanted someone to help you.
Yeah, no, I didn't have help, and I got a girlfriend right after, and she was great and very helpful. But then she left after a few years, and I had to kind of sort through on my own, and it was tough. And
picking up kids from school and all.
Yeah,
that.
I mean, I was really lucky because I got this job that was an incredible job at Kenya Ranch, where I was a medical director, and I only had to work 3 days a week, and I could work from 9 to 4, and I could drop my kids at school and pick them up in the afternoon, and I could go get a massage or take a sauna at lunch, so I could sort of function a little bit. But it was an interesting moment because I was helping my patients as I was discovering functional medicine and trying to help myself at the same time. And often I was sicker than my patients.
Right.
I was I had to kind of hide it a little bit, and it was a really tough moment.
And was there a moment where you were just after all these years, I finally actually I wake up and I feel better, or it was so gradual that you couldn't actually, it wasn't like a night or day, I fixed my mercury poisoning, I'm good now.
It was layers. I mean, it was interesting. There's layers, and I'm still continuing to heal and feel better. I'm literally still healing from all of that, from the layers of mold and mercury and Lyme and all the things I've had. So I'm constantly trying things and doing new things, but I probably feel better now 30 years later than I did then. I mean, I felt great in my 20s and early 30s, but since then, this is the best I felt.
Amazing. Tell me about the work, the internal work. I know we shared a coach for a really long time.
Yeah.
And you've done some deep, deep inner work, and you've had a wild inner journey. I mean, there's obviously our parental patterns that have come through, and how we, heal those patterns. What were some of the, first of all, things that you did, first figuring out with your coach, and how did that support you?
Well, a lot of us are run by our unconscious childhood wounds.
Yeah.
And they run the program. And so we think we're adults, but actually the little kids who are scared and hurt and don't know how to navigate life and relationships. And so,
What were some of yours?
I mean, I had, it took me a long time to figure it out, but because my mother was very loving, very kind, and really loved me, but she was the child of deaf parents, and so she grew up in a world where she was the parent to her parents, and was their voice in their ears.
Oh, that movie.
The movie Coda, the Children of Deaf Adults. It was a very powerful movie, and it really actually helped me also heal a lot by seeing that movie and understanding the whole dynamic. Because I was also put in that position by my mother, not willingly, but she tried her best, but she got married to my father, who was broken, and then divorced him, and my stepfather, who was, a rageaholic and abusive, and was severely depressed and was trapped, didn't know how to leave.
And of course, at that era, they didn't have any help themselves,
Right.
so they just passed it down
to in the 70s, and so she just used me to help be her confidant and her therapist as a kid, which was not a good thing.
Yeah.
And that made me take care of and protect my mother. She would faint. I'd have to rescue her at 5 years old. It was. She was almost. We were almost taken away, put in a foster home because she lost weight. It was down to 9.
What would you do when she fainted? Like, how would you even
Well, it was weird.
know what to do?
It was a weird feeling. It was like I would go and get a wet washcloth and a cold washcloth, put on her head and slap her face and go, "Mommy, mommy, wake up!" And eventually she'd come to, and it was both terrifying and it was also exhilarating that I could rescue my mother.
Yeah.
So I kind of got in this pattern of sort of just bad relationships as a result of that programming. And I realized that she didn't mean to, but she took my light as a child away. A lot of us have our light taken away by our community, by our parents, by people in our lives. And it's, we spend our lives trying to fill that hole or that void or that emptiness. And it took me a long time to get whole again and to realize that I was just good without that.
I wonder if that's one of the reasons you became a doctor, because you almost saved your mom at age 5.
I mean, just to help people. I mean, I always wanted to help people and serve. I mean, I studied Buddhism in college, so I got an idea in my head that, compassion and service were a good path in life. And so I kind of thought, I'm not going to be a monk, but I could be a doctor.
Why Buddhism?
Well, I think I was very attracted to healing the mind and the suffering, because I think probably I had so much suffering, and I was very attracted to sort of enlightenment and understanding how the mind works and why we suffer and how we can end suffering.
So what were some of the things you tackled when you started working with LZ with the coach? What were some of the kind of, you're like, wow.
Yeah, I was a people pleaser. I was a liar in terms of, not telling the truth about things and not obviously lying about obvious things. But
which, by the way, everybody lies to
Right.
themselves, or they tell half truths, or they omit something. And they're like, I'm a really good person. And I think
Right.
that's one of the things that our coach mutually taught us. It's we all believe we're good people because we are, but we often lie to ourselves about everything, or tell half truths or omit stuff. And that's also lying.
Or not saying something to your partner because you think they'll be upset.
Yes.
And then
think that you're a good person.
and managing their response to kind of control your own emotional,
That's it.
reaction to it. So it's I think
It's
we all
subtle,
do that
but-
to some degree, but that was a really big thing for me, was understanding some of those patterns that I had, and what they were about, and where there was, the sort of the need to sort of
Please.
people please, which was really screwed up in my life in a lot of ways, because when you're doing that, you're actually just trying to avoid the discomfort of the feeling of whatever the truth or the reality is. So I learned to lie as a little kid, because my mother would say, don't tell your father this, don't tell your father that. He's going to be upset if you do this. He's going to be upset if you do that. So just hide this or hide that. So I literally learned from my mother how to lie to avoid emotional distress from the people around me. Yeah.
And so when you started to, so walk me through the process of the becoming aware of that. And because I know LZ or our coach would just say stuff like, write down every time you have a sort of a negative thought or something, and then it just builds the awareness. What are some of the, just for anyone listening or anyone watching, what are some of the awareness tools?
We have this whole inner dialogue, this inner person. I call it my inner asshole.
Yeah.
And it kind of runs a whole narrative about life, about you, about your body, about your whatever relationship. There's all these stories. And so most of them are just unconscious. So I think writing them down in an unfiltered way, not writing them down as if someone's going to read them or they're going to put in a newspaper or a magazine article, but just really raw.
Being honest,
with yourself. And I think the worst lies are the lies we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
And so that was a very powerful process. And then calling in your higher self to actually talk back to that.
Yes.
That kind of dark
The talk
inner
back.
asshole. Because I think you have to talk back to kind of correct
Rewire.
the thinking. And so doing that day after day after day, morning and night for months and months and months and months really helped me see the kind of nonsense that was going on in my head and to kind of clear it out.
It's like going to the gym. It's like building a muscle, a new muscle of sort of, oh, when this thing comes, this trigger comes, I can actually direct it this way. And that could take years. Totally. It's like your own body.
Totally.
Wow. So what about like some of the tactical, like external things, like as you're, again, you know, like, cause it's so interesting whenever shit happens to successful people, you know, it's always like easy to cover up, or it's like, oh, everything looks so amazing out in the world. And it's so pretty and perfect. But really there's like so many tactical things that got involved that had to happen in order for you to go from there to here. Yeah. Right. So, you know, I'm always curious to understand both the emotional journey, like, okay, so you started like really catching your inner lies and writing them down and finding awareness and shifting that. What are some other sort of internal tactical and external tactical things? Obviously, you got out of your marriage is really difficult. You were able to stabilize with your family. You're starting to do all that work on yourself and, you know, on just figuring out what to take physically. But like other like this is such a, like, I'm always curious, and I think people are always curious about what can people do, you know, to.
Well, even when I was really sick, I really was deliberate about taking care of myself. I mean, I made sure even if I didn't feel like exercising, I still would go and walk or do a little jog or a bike ride. Even though I found myself so bad, I didn't know how I was going to, like, you know, put on my shoes. I would just force myself, and I would feel a little better, or I would make sure I, you know, ate the right food, or I would be with the people that would make me feel better, or I would, you know, make sure I took time to kind of de-stress and relax and get massages or do saunas or just different things that I had to do to kind of maintain my physiological state of balance. And that really helped me. But it wasn't until I was able to get rid of all these things that were really quite serious for me to feel better, like Lyme and mold and mercury.
How does one just, you know, from doctor's perspective, like quickly cure like a Lyme or mold?
Oh, there's no quick. These are some of the worst things. Mold and Lyme disease and tick-borne illnesses and heavy metals are completely neglected by traditional medicine. They're not managed well at all. And then people suffer from them so badly, and there's really no clear path for most people. And, you know, unfortunately, a lot of the approaches to these problems are sort of outside traditional mainstream medicine. You can find functional medicine doctors and other doctors who are helping with this, but it's not that many who are really good at it. So it involves a process of really understanding how the body works, about healing from these things through a very methodical process of, you know, removing, for example, the mold from your system, from
ozone
therapy through, it can be, you know, hyperbaric oxygen therapy. Different types of treatments can be very helpful. I did hyperthermia for my Lyme disease, which where you heat your body up to 107 degrees, and I had to go to Mexico to do it, and that kind of cleared it out of my system. Yeah. So there are some aggressive things that I did, but I was quite sick. So not everybody needs to do that, obviously. Right. But for me, it was you know, very, very sort of hard tactical things that I had to do. And
do you think it's like, what leads? Is it the internal journey or the external, or is it?
For me, it's all internal. Like, you know, I love life. I love people. I love my family. I love my friends. I have a mission in life, that things I want to do, and I want to be able to feel good enough to do them. And so I am very committed to bringing the insights that I've found that have helped me and thousands of my patients to millions and billions of people. Yeah. You know, and my wife is, you know, so she has a website when we met, and said, I want to be a billionaire. I want to positively affect the lives of 1 billion people.
Yes.
You know? And so I think, you know, that matters to me, because, you know, I know how much I suffered, and I know how much people out there are suffering. And if there's an answer, I want them to have it. You know, certain things are tough. Like, some people get bad cancers. There's not a lot you can do for some of these things. But a lot of things that people suffer from, there are good answers. And functional medicine really is a roadmap to helping think about how to solve the puzzle of chronic disease. And it's methodical, it's systematic, and if it's applied properly, it's remarkable for the whole range of things that we're seeing. I mean, even now Alzheimer's disease is being reversed. You know, there was, you know, Sanjay Gupta did a whole series on this with Richard Isaacson, and his research showed, you know, you can't, but he's usually the principles of functional medicine, which is looking at all the biomarkers, looking at all the systems that are balanced, correcting everything. And we're seeing, you know, sort of a renaissance in medicine to understand the body through the microbiome, through metabolic health, nutritional health. It's all coming now, like in major academic centers like Harvard and Stanford, and like, you know, psychiatry is being turned upside down. I think The Economist just had a whole series about how, wow, maybe a lot of mental health issues are in the body, not in the brain. I'm like, yeah, I wrote a book about that about 16 years ago. So
yeah. So the moment where you're like, I just don't want to go on anymore. This is too much. It's too hard for me. It's too painful. Like I just want to end it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people in the world who are just like, have those thoughts.
Yeah.
To get yourself out of like that day, that moment where you're like, fuck it. I just want this to be over. What were the three, if you can like name three things that you did to pull yourself out of that moment where you're like, I called like, what is it that you did?
Good question. I remember that moment. I was, it was just, my kids were really young. I was a single parent. It was
exhausted. Probably.
Exhausted. It was a summer. I sent them to camp. I drove to visit with my parents to visit them. And I remember being in the room of the little, hotel or motel we were in. And I was like, I just can't do this anymore. I just can't pull myself up and get up anymore in the morning and do this. I just was too exhausted, too much pain, too much suffering, too much emotional pain, physical pain. And I was like, I just want to kill myself. And, I had to kind of get through that. And I think just having kids and being responsible for my kids and knowing that their mother was just not available. She was an alcoholic. She was mentally ill, and
you could
count
on
nobody.
her.
I had to show up. So, it was my kids that really helped me pull through. Otherwise, I think I would have just bailed.
Yeah. So focusing on loved one.
Yeah.
Is
the people that matter to me. And
yeah. And then you said you started moving your body more, or is it like in that moment?
I just had to just keep plugging away to trying to find the answers. And it took years to find the answers.
Yeah.
It wasn't like now, I can look at someone in half an hour, I can figure out what's going on with them. But it's like 30 years of knowledge. I didn't have all that back then. And now I do. And my patients don't have to wait for 10 years to get better.
Totally. So you started off as a internal medicine doctor, family medicine doctor. And as you were learning about functional medicine, while functional medicine was still coming on the rise, people didn't know what it was. No. And so people would, you'd start getting called like quack doctor or this and these kinds of like ridiculous things. But obviously today everyone's like functional medicine is the thing. And obviously like duh, but it's like food is medicine. It's like duh. Right. However, back in the day when it was still nascent, there was still so much naysayers. I've dealt with that with both things, TUSHY, all my companies, like all the being, a disruptive founder comes with
changing the paradigm and stuff.
You're changing the paradigm, and it comes with a lot of dark shit and people wanting to take you down and the status quo wanting to stay strong. And I always think about society as a big blob, and there's always a few disruptors who are trying to pull this blob forward. Yeah. And the blob wants to stay strong. So they'll throw rocks at this. They'll try to unhook the person from trying to pull it forward. They'll try to just do anything to keep the blob strong and the same. Yeah. So 2 questions. One, like, what did you do to like keep like deal with the naysayers? But then like, what were some of the things that you did to be like, no, this is a real thing, people? Like, what are some of the things that you did?
I just knew it in every cell of my body. I knew it on my own body. I saw it with my patients. I saw, day after day, miracles happen that were things that I learned were not possible in medicine. Reversing autoimmune disease, reversing Alzheimer's, reversing depression, reversing ADD. Just like you name it, I was like, what? How is this possible? And it was working. And so for me, I didn't care what people said. I knew this was the truth. It's like, okay, the sun does not revolve around the earth. It's just the way it is. The earth revolves around the sun. And just like, once you know that, you can't unknow it.
Right.
So it wasn't like I had to sort of convince myself to stay on the path for some elusive truth that I was going to potentially find in the future. It was like, I know this is true.
Right.
And I don't care what people say. And I know that people benefit, and if they follow this, it works. Yeah. And so I think that for me, it didn't matter. There's all these blogs written about me, Quack Watch, science-based medicine. It's like, whatever. They don't understand and they don't get it. And maybe sometimes it's even worse. It's like pharma or the medical industrial complex coming after me. I had Corn Refiners of America send me nasty letters. And
I've dealt with that.
Threaten me, and so I mean, like, but now it's like people just go, yeah, I guess you're right.
I know, totally. But while that stuff's going on, like I've dealt with takedown. You've experienced me when I went through my takedown. It was so difficult. I was pregnant at the time when I went through my experience, and it's sort of, even if you're like, no, I believe in this. I know this is better for people. I know this is the way to go. I know that this is a path that'll support people long term. There's still a little girl in me that feels like I misunderstood or felt sad or hurt and just like shamed of that. Like, why would people want to, how for those who are listening and to think about, like, especially in today's social media world where just everyone wants to talk shit and hate on people and take people down and this and that, like, how do people say, I'm going to disrupt something. I'm going to change the world in a good way. And I don't care, if the world will come crashing down, because that is a huge fear for most people who are trying to set out to do something that's game changing.
I mean, look, and I think not every personality is up for it. Honestly, I think people, there are people who just want to go out there and take the world by storm, and others who just want to just live their life. And there's nothing wrong with that. And not everybody has to be a disruptor. But I think that if you have something that's happened to you, or if you have you want to give to the world, there's no stopping you. Like, there's just like, you have it or you don't. Like, and I think that's, you have it, I think I have it. And it's this drive that comes from somewhere. I don't exactly know where. I think I was born with it. Like, I remember being in college, sitting with my friend Dave, like, well, how are we going to change the world? What are we going to do? Like, like we were just drawn to that. Like, like bees to honey, or, moth to a flame. And there was no choice. It wasn't a choice. Like, I had to make a choice. It was just like, this is what I have to do.
Beautiful. I mean, I've actually, you showed me the book the book of letters and photos that you gave to David, for your Cornell days, and the idealism was there then, and it's there now, and it's pure and it's true. And I think that's ultimately the key, I think, is like it's authentically true. And while, we're all always on a quest of becoming more and more true and lying to ourselves less, but there's still a deep kind of like, it's almost like a staff inside that just it's strong, and it's just like, this is me, this is what I believe in. Yeah. And that keeps you moving forward. How would you say for people to build up that inner strength?
I don't know. It depends on what's going on for you. To me, it's not about belief. It's about, knowing I don't have to believe that the sun is going to come up every morning. I know it's coming up. I don't have to believe that functional medicine works. I know it works. Yeah. Like, I don't have to, I have to maybe believe in God, because I don't know for sure, right? Yeah. I don't have to believe in the afterlife, because I don't know for sure if that's a thing. But there's certain things I just know, and it's not something I have to question or convince myself of, or try to push through to get to. It's just there as a core knowing. And I think if you have that knowing about whatever it is, whether it's your creative efforts, or whether it's what you want to do in the world, or whether it's a gift you have to give. I mean, everybody has some gift they can give, and it's connecting to what that is for themselves and leaning into that.
Beautiful. I will say, Dr. Mark Hyman has truly, honestly, in so many different ways changed my life. Aww. And I'm always so thrilled to hear you speak. Whenever you're speaking on stages or sharing your gifts and sharing your magic, it's truly coming from your heart, which is what's so powerful about why people have so much affinity towards you, because you're really heart-centered. And I'm so grateful that we get to be in each other's lives, get to be besties, and get to go to the Dead show this weekend. And
that's what counts. That's actually what counts.
Go to the Burn and do all the fun things together in life. And I love you so much. Check out functionhealth.com. Check out Dr. Mark Hyman on Insta. He's got a wealth and breadth of knowledge, and just truly, like, the man has so much knowledge in this tight, hot package. And check out his new book coming out. It's Young Forever Cookbook. Yeah. And I'm excited. I'm excited for all that's to come. I mean, it feels like you have your healing path, and now it's just uphill from here.
Yeah, well, I think that's what's so exciting about Function Health. It's taking everything I've learned over the last 30 years and putting it in a simple, easy to use, affordable, scalable, democratized health platform that allows you to access your own blood data, all your own biological data and give you a path forward to understand how to up-level your health with your own information. So it's really about empowering people to be the CEO of their own health and have a health co-pilot.
That's right. That's right. So check out functionhealth.com/Mark
to get a jump the wait list.
That's it. Go to functionhealth.com/Mark to jump the wait list. Also, of course, check out hellotushy.com. It is truly the best thing for your bottom and for your confidence. And I'm Miki Agrawal, founder of TUSHY. This is Dr. Mark Hyman, sort of the king of functional medicine, signing off for now. Love you all.